Well, we're back trying to get into another phase of design, and so Tom's going to lead us along with Josh and Tony from Mosley, and they're going to focus in on the city council space. So,
glad to have you here.
Thank you, sir. Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council, city manager, guests, thanks for being here today. Again, we've talked a number of times about the new City Hall project. A couple of folks are here with me today. Mr. Barry Shockley, our facility management administrator from the city. Mr. Tim Oliver, who's our project manager for this project. Tony Bell and Josh Bennett from Mosley Architects. And I'd also like to introduce Mr. Gary Arnold, who is a new member to the city. He's our senior architect. Collectively, we're working this project. Well,
we're glad to have all of y'all here.
As you'll remember, briefly, back in October, we had a approval of a resolution selecting option 2, which was to proceed with design of a proposed new city hall to the south of this existing building and making sure that we did not impact the gazebo and the park along George Mason Drive. How big's the building? So we did a space needs assessment in November of 2016, and we repeated that in August of 2017. We had a special meeting in there with Councilman Wood and the Vice Mayor in July. We did our space needs assessment determined 149,000 square feet. 50 years from now, we got a lot of feedback that we weren't really sure enough that we were willing to spend the money to build that size of building. So we got direction from the city manager to build a 134,000 square foot building, or to design a 134,000 square foot building within the current appropriated budget of $50,250,000, looking at possible expansion from the 134 to 149 if in fact growth did occur as we think it could. Again, in July of 2017, the group here really met with Councilman Wood and Vice Mayor Jones to take a look at 3 things. The informal session conference room, which is what we're in here today, what would replace this, the formal council chambers, and then also mayor, vice mayor, city council member offices and meeting spaces. So where are we in the process? And it's kind of important for you to understand that right now. When we hire an architect to design a building, and that's what we're in the design phase right now, we're in what's called the schematic design phase. What has to happen first is the designer has to validate the program to make sure that everyone going in here is getting exactly what they need and that the square footage for each person is what it needs to be. We have validated the program with every other occupant of the building with the exception of council, and we're back here today just to make sure that the square footage assignments for the spaces that you need are appropriately accounted for. Once we get through that, we proceed towards concept design. We take all of those square footages, we build floor schemes, schematics, we develop the footprint of the building, we make basic decisions on is it 2-story or 3-story, and then that progresses floor by floor, and we intend to come back and see you a couple of more times. So we're here today to confirm city council space needs. We were meeting in February, we got bumped a week. Then we plan to come back and see you in April with a more refined design of the entire building, which will have such things such as 3D renderings, the ability to walk through spaces. And by the time we get into May, we will have completed schematic design. And between May and August, we then develop the design documents, which is when we really get into the details of what's in each space, layout, color, furnishings, that whole deal. And then finally, we go with construction document development, which is in the later fall. Then the 5th and 6th phases of design are solicitation and award of a construction contract, and then overseeing the design process during construction. So I'd like to invite Tony Bell to come up and talk to you from Mosley. He's going to walk you through this program development meeting, much as he would for any of the other clients in the building.
Tony, we're glad to have you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. So, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council, something like this is what you're going to see as we progress through the design phase. You know, I don't have renderings to bring before you today. We're really only talking about space, the amount of space that's required. And as we move forward into the design development phase, we'll then be looking at finishes and configurations and furniture of the individual spaces. But we're not going to talk about that today.
And Tony, that's not a concept for this building, is it?
Yes, that is a good clarification, Tom. That is by no means a representation of what we're envisioning for Virginia Beach's City Hall. That is merely a representation of the level of development of design you will see as we move things forward. So you'll be able to pick the colors and the furniture and the three-dimensional amount of space that we envision, okay? But we're not going to talk about that today, okay? Today is strictly going to be focused on space needs, all right? So why are we here? As Tom said, schematic design starts with this confirmation of the space needs. So today we're going to review the space needs for City Council, the Mayor's Office, the City Manager, and the staff that serve all of them. And then we're going to revise or confirm that this is the right amount of space for your function in the building. And as Tom said, we've already done this for every other city function who's going to be housed in City Hall. Everyone else has given us the green sign, and our goal today is to get that green light from you. Make sense? So, no further ado. Largest space we have for City Council is the council chambers of 4,800 square feet. But we also have what we refer to as room 234 conference room. That's the space we're in right now. Obviously, it's going to be a little larger as we move into the new. We'll have a kitchenette adjoining this space. We'll have the mayor's office of 300 square feet, the vice mayor's office of 300 square feet, 9 council offices of 90 square feet, 2 conference rooms of 144 square feet. The purpose of those is to meet with small groups of citizens that would not maybe fit in a one-on-one situation in that private office of 90. And then one office for the assistant to the city council, and that room would hold 2 staff. So what would that look like?
That's right.
Ms. Henley, your question?
Yeah, so we're gonna get an assistant?
Yes, so that would be Miss Debbie Collins and Miss Judy Farrow.
Oh,
Well, that's
okay,
the mayor.
mayor's
I got it.
Okay,
Okay.
all right.
Is that 2 individual
Shucks.
FTEs?
Two individuals, FTEs, in one office.
Okay, so, members of council, as I prepare the 19 budget, I've added an FTE to the city manager, city council staff to add a second full-time FTE. Remember, Debbie and Judy are hot seating a single FTE position. And this is a constituency affairs type person, someone, we recognize that the mayor occupies virtually 90% of all the activities that are going in there, and that we heard loudly at the city council goal setting workshop the need to have more attention, ability to support you in your town hall meetings, to ability to download your phones with your texts, ability to coordinate, someone additional beyond what Nancy's doing from constituent affairs and city manager related functions, because potholes, they come into you, concern about potholes and down signs come into you as much as they come into me and the city managers. So I've added that FTE, and you'll be seeing that in the manager's submission. So we wanted to make sure that there was space for 2 FTEs inside this office.
Another question.
I was just gonna say, I'm looking at the design on the next page, and you've got it set up as a table like this with media in the same place. Just for whenever this gets built in 2023 or what, for the person sitting in this seat, I can't see half the time, so you might want to reconfigure that.
Okay.
I mean, I can't see what's up there.
So perhaps-
It's moving all around.
I'm sorry about that.
Oh, I'm always having to tell Jim, move your big shoulder, Jim.
So you
bigger
might
and
want to
more
configure
screens.
that for council
That's
presentation.
very good input.
By height.
So perhaps a flared table, something that has canted sides to allow everyone to see the front of the room.
Well, also,
Even just another
what I'm
TV.
familiar with is bigger and more screens. Almost all the briefings I go to have screens on that side, the front, and the back. I mean, that is just pretty common, all the things I go to the Pentagon. There is no shortage of display screens.
Okay, good feedback. So the components of this space we have discussed previously is 60 people, meeting 2 to 3 times a week, seating for 45 people in 3 elevated rows, audio and video recording capabilities, and space for media viewing. That's something that you don't have here in this existing 234. And the existing 234 is about 700 square feet. So we're talking about, 75% larger than the space you're in now. And as you can see, you'd have a table with seating for 14 around it, some spectator seating on one side with tiered seating on the other. Once again, something you don't have now. A media corner that they can come and go without disturbing the meeting proceedings. And a kitchenette open directly off of the space. Now, obviously, we're not building this tomorrow, okay? And there will be a lot of decisions that we make moving forward. But what we're looking for confirmation for you today is this generally the right size for the space to meet these functions?
Are the dashed lines for wheelchairs, is that what they represent?
Yes, sir. Yes, Mr. Councilman Moss.
And does that match up with what the current standard is as a proportion of the number of seats?
Yes, sir, it does.
Okay, thank you.
And the ADA also requires that those spaces be dispersed throughout the seating area. So that's why we have 2 on the low side and 1 on the high side.
Yes, Jim.
Is that adequate space for TV cameras there?
We said 2 to 3. So the thought would be 2 to 3. Now, obviously, they could spread out, Councilman Wood, along that wall, and you can remove those chairs as needed, depending on whatever function may be going on that day. And the clerk space would be here. It's the current plan.
Or where that door is that an egress and ingress for fire?
This here?
Yes.
No. No, sir.
Okay.
So you've got 1, 2, 3,
Where the
4
media
egress doors. You've got 4 egress doors. This door would not be a required egress door.
Okay, gotcha, just making sure.
Media would enter and exit through that.
Yes.
Gotcha.
So it's not, so
That's
it's,
what I think you were inferring.
So would
Yes,
would the seating there on that left wall be probably media seating then?
No, that would be staff.
Oh, that would
A
just
briefing
restrict the
staff, that would be a big TV or screen behind them so the audience could see, and there'd be 2 TVs on each of the 2 ends that you'd see there. I think everybody would be able to have good visibility.
so Ms. Henley, you could see, excuse me, Council Lady Henley, you could see from this screen or from this screen, depending on your needs and where you're sitting at the table.
Speaker's gonna run back and forth.
The speaker would have a control here at the podium, so they can highlight with a mouse what they're referring to.
And they'd be able to enter, staff would swap out here and go to the podium here and exit out the side and be able to control it. And we thought having tiered here, you can imagine if that was the staff here and you'd have the tier back there. And they could come and go without a lot of disruption to observe the informal.
John?
I'm just thinking aloud, it's having the city clerk kind of put right in there with the media kind of above that area is maybe not a great spot. I think about maybe cutting out a spot over in that front rail on the other side. No, on the other side. On the other side. No, right there. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And put, I mean, I'd look to a city clerk to actually have it, but I mean, I know how cramped it gets over just in this general area when you've got a reporter, a cameraman, and all their equipment. And then if you got them just hovering around, it's probably difficult for the city clerk to be able to hear and concentrate on the,
Because 3 cameras typically means 6 people.
yeah.
Or even just flipping the desk so that it wasn't.
Yeah, I just put
So
it,
face the other way.
I just put it over on the other side, and then that's got a good visibility of everything else.
So we put her here and we slide them over to the side here.
No, I'm
maybe.
thinking you just put it over
Up
on the
here,
front.
this
Yeah,
is a
just-
access way.
No, take out that front tier. Yeah,
This
there
one?
you go. Yeah, right there.
Put her in here.
Reduce the number of seats, I don't
And-
think we ever had that many people wanting to be in
Well,
there
and it's gonna be
anyway.
tiered, so I mean, you've got
Exactly.
a ton more.
Maybe we wedge it out here and she gets a corner.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
we can bring
some additional options. Josh, you want to interject something?
Yeah, I would just wonder, Ms. Barnes, if, does the media interact with you on a regular basis when they enter and leave?
No,
Do they need
sir.
to come to you for any documents or anything like that?
No, sir.
Okay.
Not in here.
If we locate you away from the media, I just would hate to have them moving back and forth across the space.
I think, Mr. Mayor, what we can do is look at different options for where we locate the clerk.
That suits me fine. My wife and I built a house about 4 years ago, just two of us. I can't imagine what's, and I found out only one should be doing it. And with 11 of us trying to design this thing, praise the
It's
Lord.
gonna be fun. I can assure you it's gonna be fun.
One did do it.
One did do it. I just stayed aside, I stepped aside.
Is there anything we're missing, Mr. Moss?
I don't know if you have, I don't have anything to add to this, because that is, a lot of meetings I go to are like, set up like that room, so I'm familiar with it. But do you have where, you could, maybe not now, but later,
happening now,
show
right?
how this insets and what's on all the dimensions, where the hallway, how this sits in the building, you know, relative to the building? I just see the space, but it would nice to to see where the hallway is. I just see the spot. It's like playing a game, you know, you're watching this part, but over here on the side, you can see where you are in the game. When I see this, I'd like to know where in the building and, you know, where's the hallway, what are the tangent spaces, so you have a perspective. That's part of looking at the setup, is that spatial relationship to the rest of the building.
So that's the next meeting.
Thank you.
I have a question about, in terms of, since it'll be more gallery seating, what is is there plans to have like inset speakers in there? I know some of the feedback I get a lot of is people can't hear what's going on. I don't think that's so much a problem in this room, but out there it's definitely, I mean, I get people who come up to me after meetings and say I couldn't hear anything that was going on. So the further back people get, it might be wise to have some kind of inset speakers, or I don't know. That's just
Twice as big as this room.
We will.
yeah.
We will.
It'll be a lot bigger.
Any other feedback on this space? Okay.
The kitchen.
Green light then on the square footage?
Move on.
Okay.
Well, we got it.
And here's a configuration we've done elsewhere. Obviously, this doesn't have tiered seating, but I think you get the general idea of how these spaces would be configured. So that moves us to the council chamber. In the council chamber, we have sized at 4,800 square feet, fixed seating, audio, video recording, monitors, projection screens, podium, vote board, timers, telescoping podium for ADA access. That's something that moves up and down. So if you're in a wheelchair or if you're standing, it can be at the right height. The current chamber seats 144. We're looking at seating 300. And the existing chambers is approximately 2,400 square feet, so we're basically doubling it. For comparison, the City of Chesapeake's chamber seats 235. I was there this morning. So we were looking at basically this configuration. Now you may ask, well, what's this area in the rear? Why is that larger than it maybe needs to be? The reason is, if we go to individual seats, we're going to need that space, okay? So if we go to individual fixed seats that maybe are upholstered with arms, that will accommodate 300 seats at that size. We were also thinking perhaps media could be back there, or we could have a space for media up near the front. Obviously, we have 11 seats for you, plus seats for city manager, deputy city manager, city attorney, up at the front of the dais. There would be a raised dais, 2 steps on one side, a ramp on the other, podium in the middle, and we'll notch out areas for the ADA seating. We're not showing that quite yet because we haven't quite got the configuration nailed down as far as, are we individual fixed seats or are we bench seats?
The line in the front row.
Oh, this is like a spectator rail?
Like a courtroom rail?
Correct, yes.
Okay, Rosemary, then John.
First of all, please don't put bench seating in.
Okay.
I had to go to these meetings in Southampton County this past year, and they had benches, and they were hard. Especially when you're sitting there for a long time. They were really miserable.
John, I
So
think your comments were right about that.
please don't put in bench seats.
All right, so we want individual upholstered seats with arms.
And,
Okay.
and the other thing, what about staff that's, besides the manager and planning staff and all,
Would the desire to have them at the dais, or would the desire to be maybe a row in front of the, what I'll call the spectator rail, a row in front of the spectator rail?
I think they need special seating.
Okay.
What we have today is pretty good, I think.
Yeah, well,
Table, I mean, they have a little
Right.
desk out there.
right,
now.
yeah, they need, I think they need a table or
Okay.
their papers.
Table on the floor, or table as part of the dais?
I would ask them what they would want.
They need something to put papers on, that type of thing, you know.
And they need electrical hookup, and they need to be able to put a microphone in there. They need to have video control. So I would say they need a fixed element in front of the banister, in front of the rail.
Like we have today. So.
Okay, so the current configuration works for that.
I don't know, you have to ask them.
Okay.
What would meet their needs the best, rather than us trying to say what meets their needs.
Okay.
John?
Since we're just dealing with square footage issues, but I've sent other comments, but it'll be for a later date. But I do think we need to have an outline, just like on the other place, where the media would be with the individual seats. That's so for people who are doing the public safety of the room know where they need to be. They know where they need to be. I think that would be important. And somewhere in the back, I think there needs, and I mentioned before, I think there needs to be some kind of table for the, I'll call it the print and virtual media who type on laptops while the meeting's going on, and that's an individual seat. That's not a very ergonomic activity, or it isn't in here either so much, but that would certainly, we need a big space, but I think, 4 people, probably, I never see more than that here, but 4 to 6 someplace in the back where they could have power. And I do believe in today's environment looking forward, and with my good IT friend here to my left, is all these seats need to have some kind of USB plug, and they need to have the ability to allow people to plug in their devices while they're in the room. And just airlines can do it in individual seats. I know that we can too.
Jim Wood.
Yeah, and that would kind of go back to the conference table. I'm assuming it would be a powered table because that's, now you have to use a battery or something.
Your table in the 234?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it will.
Other comments on this before we move on? Okay, let's move on.
So here are some possible configurations we've done elsewhere. Individual seats, bench seats, video screens. Let's move on to the mayor's office. The mayor's office currently is about 325 square feet. We proposed 300 square feet. This is but one furniture configuration that could be utilized in this space. Once again, we're just here to confirm the space quantity, okay? Not the space qualities. We'll be back to talk about that later. So if you don't like the style of furniture that you see here, let's not focus on that, okay? Let's focus on, is it large enough to accommodate the functions that are to be held in it?
So
It's smaller than what you have now.
I'm fine.
Well, but you have meetings and all.
Yeah, and is this a takeaway that there's no windows in this space? Is that the conclusion I
Hey, no
should draw?
windows, come on.
There is no conclusion to be drawn along those lines,
Okay,
Councilman
I'm
Moss.
asking because that's the representative, I'm just asking.
Because we
that's
don't
how
know
it's
where in the
represented.
building this will go. I will also add that the office spaces that you see and the square footages are in line with city standards. The city has space standards for every size of office, size of workstation, conference rooms, things of that nature. And this is in adherence with that.
The only thing I would bring to one's attention, whoever's the mayor at the time with his office is there, sometimes having a larger table is much more functional, because quite often you have more than 2 or 3 people that come in and meet. We recently brought in that round table there. We squeezed 5 chairs in it. I think if we had a longer table, maybe with up to 8, chairs around it, I think it would serve the mayor and the people visiting the mayor's office very well.
But to that point, you probably need more square feet to
I
accommodate
think this
that larger
office is
table.
too small. I know you hardly hear
Smaller
me
than what
say
you
that,
have
but I
now.
think the office is too small.
I gotta agree with you, John. I think it is too.
I just know my own experience that is too small.
Okay. So we need an office to accommodate a conference table
400
for
square
8.
feet. That'd be about 400, it'd be
Yeah.
75 square feet, make a big
Should it have a
difference.
sofa? I mean, don't,
As well as a U-shaped desk, workstation credenza.
Well, I'd leave that to whoever's doing that mess, but that's too much, that's not enough space.
I might say that since you brought the small coffee table in, we're utilizing that. We're not going to the couch anymore. We're elbows on the table and
The table's much more functional.
Yes, that this isn't necessarily the furniture.
We need to have space there. I'd say 400 is about right. That's what I think is good. It's too
So pop that up to 400.
Okay.
Blame me.
All right.
couches.
No couches. And once again, this
We'll say
is
John
not the
Ross will spend more
furniture
money.
that we're gonna put in
that
this
doesn't happen
room.
every day.
But I just know what reality is.
Just a
Well, that is
it's
too
just
small.
a representation of what the room will accommodate. So we've determined that this configuration is a little too small. We need a conference room table for 8. So we'll upsize the room to 400 square feet to accommodate that. All right. So moving to the city council member, private office, we said 90 square feet for that.
Same.
I'm sorry, vice mayor, 300 square feet, which is the same square footage we started with for the mayor.
I think
Does
that's
this-
fine. This office is gonna be used by council members and what, it really just is a function, in my view, of where we need more office space for council members to meet here at City Hall. So, we come down here and we all try to crowd into that little room over there in the corner and, or find a space somewhere.
And I think that, and I don't know, this is just me, and I know we're not, well, I'll wait till we get to those first. I don't know that we need 9 individual offices.
Probably don't need all that bookshelves and credenza, but a bigger table would probably be better.
I think a nice round table would do it, really, you know. But,
Yeah.
like the mayor
So-
described it.
So, the furnishing is not necessarily where we're headed, but the square footage. Do we want an office that has a workstation and a conference table within it? Because we do have, jumping ahead, we're gonna have 9 individual offices, one for every council member besides the mayor and vice mayor. Then we're gonna have 2 conference rooms, okay? Once again, these are just for city council. Those 2 conference rooms will each be able to accommodate 6 people around an oval or rectangular table. So that would be somewhere you could go to have a meeting with up to 6.
I would suggest that we haven't got, that we don't need 9 individual offices. That's my first thought. I might not be shared by other people. I think the bigger multi-function pieces, all these rooms, including the mayor's office, need a screen. No one should be in an office that's of that size that doesn't have a video display screen. That's just
Right.
a purpose. But I think what the vice mayor is suggesting makes sense. And I think, well, we might need, when people come down here, want to do a little bit of work, you know, now I guess in the future, 50 years from now, there could be a full-time council. I guess you're trying to plan for that, and if that's the thought that might happen sometime in the future. But in our current CONOPS arrangement, I defer to my other peers. I don't know that we each need an individual spot down here, but maybe I'm wrong. I'll yield to the majority, but I certainly would not.
Being futuristic, and I'm not saying this is where we're gonna go either, just like you, but there are councils and boards that have staff. You know, Fairfax,
I'm
every
with you, Rosemary.
council,
I'll put my stamp on it, yes.
council
9
member has a
offices.
staff, and I'm not saying that's where we're going, but let's say 25 years from
That's true.
now,
Good point.
it may be needed, you know, we may, that council, because I'm sure I'm not gonna be here then, but, you know, they may want staff members.
Yes, I'm with
So
you. All
the
right.
individual rooms might be more for staff than the actual council members.
That's true. I concede.
Okay.
I mean, I'll offer up that it frustrates me a little bit to watch you all have to come to this meeting every week, and you gotta bring your coats in and your books and and I just thought if y'all had a space that was yours, you could leave your briefcase there, your bag there, your coat there, and just bring the papers you need into the meeting, and, you know, especially if you come early and you're hauling all this stuff around the hallways, I just feel bad, so that was part of the reason why. Thank you. Well, that's why the 9 offices came
Right.
up, was so that you'd have a space.
At
Give me
least a
them,
file
Barbara.
cabinet somewhere.
Somebody's finally got sympathy for us.
But I mean,
He's probably the
but
only
the thing
one.
is when we come in here,
Took asbestos to do it.
like today, if I came in at noon to do something to volunteer, then I had something at 1, and then I had between 1:30 and 2:30, so I sat in here, or I sat out there, and so that's the thing, it brought all my stuff back and forth, and there was really no place to do anything, so. I mean, I think it makes sense. The other issue, John, frankly, is, and when we talked to them about this, is I was worried a lot about the open meeting stuff and FOIA and all that, because originally the concept was a giant open bullpen. Well, the issue with that is that we're all sitting around, even with the best intentions, there's gonna be more than 3 of us sitting there talking, and that's not good, so.
No, you're right. That's not good.
So,
Thank you, sir.
looking out for
So the consensus,
I'm all in.
if I've listened and heard correctly,
Stay with the plan.
keep the 9 offices.
Yep.
And the 90 square feet is appropriate for the 9 offices. Can I get consensus on the vice mayor's office?
I think that's fine.
This look good?
Yeah.
Okay, and once again, we will revisit the furniture at a later date.
And I don't, getting back to the offices, you know, you wanna make them, I don't know if 90 square feet is big enough to be able to meet people in there, but I mean, you need to be able to put in, you know, not a huge folks, but I mean, like 3 people you need to be able to actually have in your office to talk to them.
Well, Councilman, yeah, the discussion we had with Mr. Wood and Vice Mayor Jones at the time was, if you've got one, you meet with them in your office. If you have more than one, then you go to the conference room down the hall. And
I mean, most of my meetings are 2 or 3 people and, you know, so.
Or you go to the vice mayor's office.
Yeah, so you've got those two.
Really
right,
impressive.
that's what's on there.
You back up.
So, yes, sir.
So we could get 2 chairs in here, so you'd have 3 chairs.
Okay.
All right, good.
Minimal furniture, you don't need that much furniture.
So then we've got 2 conference rooms, and they would each be set up as a conference room. The way we've got it set up right now is 2 doors, maybe one front of house, one back of house.
Excuse me.
So the public could enter from the lobby side, from the public side of the suite, and you could enter from the rear. Not necessary that that's the way it'd be set up, but that's the way it's shown on this diagram, in case you're wondering why there's 2 doors. We can maybe have a small refrigerator, you know, used primarily on Tuesdays when you have your meetings. Does this meet your need? Okay. Have 2 of
Looking
those.
good.
Okay. All right, and that brings us to the council staff, which City Manager Hanson was discussing earlier. Currently, you've got 1 FTE right now, my understanding, is that right? Shared by 2 staff. So what we're proposing, that in the future, there is the potential to have 2 people there simultaneously, sharing 1 office with 2 workstations in that office. Okay?
Yeah.
Move ahead. All right, now let's focus on the city manager's function. So we've got a city manager office of approximately 300 square feet, 4 deputy city manager offices of approximately 250 square feet, an executive assistant to the city manager, 150 square feet, an assistant, 2 assistants to the city manager at 150, 3 deputy city manager executive assistants, they're in workstations, there's 5 of them. An executive receptionist of a 100 square foot workstation, they would be sitting in the reception area. And we haven't yet determined whether there's glass between them and the waiting area or not, but that's the decision we'll make with you together in the future. And then 2 shared workstations. So let's look at what those look like. So the city manager's office, once again, proposed to be,
Small.
Make it bigger, say
Okay.
match the mayor, it's too small, that'll be the same, it's too small.
same size as the mayor out here. 400 square feet is where we want to go, for the same reason, to get a 8-person conference room table within the office.
That's up to the city manager to decide how he wants to do that.
Needs more space.
He has a lot of meetings in his office, from what I gather.
Mr. Manager?
I'll take the 400.
Okay.
We're looking out for you.
Although most of my meetings are filled up in here pretty good.
Anyway,
Yes, sir.
it's so well.
Okay.
it's
Any
well
other
designed.
discussion?
Yep.
City manager. All right, moving ahead to deputy city manager. So currently, their offices are about 160 square feet, but we're proposing a little larger, so we can get a conference room table in there. If we don't have the conference room table, we obviously could reduce it down to about 150, what it is now. But you can't get a conference room table in a 150 square foot office.
Space.
I think that's good for them.
There'd be
Nice to get more, but
4
I
of
think they'll
these.
be fine.
That is a lot of space.
Oh, they have to go find other places for their,
I'm just saying in today's world, it's a lot of space. I'll say it's okay space, but more than that would be way over, but that's a lot of space by today's standards.
Okay, any more discussion?
Let's move on if everyone's okay. All
Okay.
right.
Executive assistant to the city manager. They're currently at about 160. We're proposing 150, and you can get a U-shaped workstation or an L-shaped workstation. Once again, don't focus on the furniture here. Focus on the function. So the thought is you'd have a desk with a side credenza and a rear credenza, and then 2 guest chairs and a bookshelf or a file cabinet.
Likes me.
And that's about it in 150 square feet. Look okay?
Yeah, it does.
All right. Assistants to the city manager, the same thing.
Okay, I'm gonna back up. I'm gonna talk about that for 1 second.
All right. The executive
Sometimes
assistant or the
she has
assistant.
people come in to meet with her to work through some issues, you know, and it can get kind of crowded in that office now from what I've seen. Am I not right, Dave?
Yes, sir. We envision having a central entrance area and and a waiting area and an ability to provide an opportunity for them in a lobby config. I think that's what you were referring to.
Well, I know that sometimes she takes people that have come in here with a complaint, or a group of people have come in with a complaint, and takes them to her office. I know I've seen that numerous times. If this is sufficient, fine.
Right. We probably don't like her to have more than 2 people in there. When we got the complaining situation, we try to get into a different environment at that point.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So moving on to the deputy city manager, executive assistants. These folks would be in workstations of approximately 80 square feet. There'd be 5 of them. And they'd be generally configured, as you see here in the bottom right-hand corner, in pairs. And the thought would be they would all be housed together, maybe across the hall from the deputy city manager's offices. Any discussion on this, or does this look adequate?
It does, but when you come back, I hope that's the appropriate time where we're gonna be able to look at, maybe it's in a different closed session, but we need to look at this in the context of the security of the space. And I don't know when that's gonna happen, but whenever, I don't wanna look like we put the final imprint till we've had, in the appropriate forum, had that discussion, and to make sure that all these things, when you look at that, still make sense. I'm just reserving, I wanna understand that.
Okay.
Rosemary?
Are you gonna be talking to these people and asking them if this is gonna be good enough?
We have talked with these people and kind of gotten the, yes, this is good enough, but this is your decision, this is your department, you oversee
I
it.
understand that, but we're not the ones who work in there, and I really wanna make sure that
Okay.
I mean, I don't sit in there, so they do, and they can tell us more than we can if that's gonna be adequate.
And it's in line with the space standards of the city.
So Tony, would that be reflecting 160 square feet?
For 2 workstations, yes.
Okay.
Right. Correct.
Right.
So you have 2 workstations in that 160 square feet.
Still close.
I can show you some spaces.
And to your question, Councilman Moss, the thought in the new building would be no public could enter into the suite without authorization. As in your current layout, someone can walk into 234 without asking a single question. That would not occur in the new city hall. The public would approach a receptionist, the receptionist would let them back into the secured portion of the suite. So any of these office spaces we're talking about today would all be, secured. So moving forward to the executive receptionist, once again, this person would be in the open office reception area. Haven't determined yet if they're sitting in direct proximity to the visitor waiting area, i.e. can reach out and touch them, or is sitting behind closed wall with glass. But that is the decision that will need to be made in the near future on how that is configured, okay?
I know I don't like that.
So 100 square feet, a little larger because they're dealing with a lot of things on the front of the house. This okay?
Sure.
Then we've got some shared workstations. 2 at 64 square feet. This is for staff who come in, maybe waiting to meet with the city manager or city council, mayor. And they may be tied up, city manager, council, or mayor, and it gives them a place to work while they're waiting. So there is not downtime. Right now, they may sit in the visitor waiting area. This gives them an actual workstation to sit down and start working in. They may be waiting or preparing for a city council meeting, for a work session, things of that nature. But it gives them identifiable space within the city council, city manager suite that they have to work. So there's 2 workstations of 64 square feet.
Okay.
Good? All right, then we've got the support space. So the support space is the space that obviously doesn't have a person sitting in it full time, the visitor waiting area. We've got a council chambers waiting area that would seat 40. That would be directly outside of your large city council chamber. The AV recording broadcast room, similar to what you have now of 150 square feet. The staff restrooms, 2 of those at 50 square feet each, they would be back of house, okay? So this would not be shared by the public. This would just be for staff, city council, city manager, mayor. A coffee niche of 60 square feet. This is in addition to the kitchenette, which is going to be adjoining your large room 234 meeting room. Then we've got file supplies workroom of approximately 225 square feet. A copier, files, wall units, a microfiche reader, and then a break room and a coat closet. Now, as far as how this space is configured, you know, the copier, the wall units, and the microfiche reader could all be housed together in one small workroom, or it could be part of that open office area where you see the DCM executive assistants housed in. So we haven't made those decisions quite yet, but we will be making them as we move the project forward on what functions better for them and allows them to be more productive and more efficient to serve the citizens of the city. Are there any questions about any of this?
That council chambers waiting area, do you have a pictorial of that? Is that right outside the doors, like we have today? And there would be seating out there for 40 people? Am I imagining that correctly?
That is correct.
Okay.
And it would also serve as overflow.
I understand.
So on the nights that there are a large public hearing on a very contentious issue, you'd be able to open doors and allow that to be overflow seating.
Sure could use that tonight.
I'm sorry to hear that,
I
Mayor.
understand what it is.
But you could actually put screens out there and people could see.
Yes,
what was going
well,
on inside.
we would put screens out there so people could see without actually being in the chambers on a every night basis. But on nights where there is overflow, you could actually open doors and they would be part of the proceeding. Does that make sense?
It's a good idea.
Very good.
So any discussion on this, or this all look good? Okay.
One last question.
Yes, sir.
With the people that have opened the cubicle space or whatever, where there'll be a, and I know you said you had a coat closet,
Yes, sir.
but I'm referring to people who bring like workout gear and that kind of thing where it doesn't, because I know some of my folks, we end up having to do something for that because moving around their chair, it always seemed like with their trash can, everything else, put down their gym bag, they get jammed in there and it's hard to move around in. So we ended up doing something for that, made a rack for it. And I'm just curious for people who do that, is that coat closet or something like it going to be a place where people can store that stuff?
You just hit the nail on something else too. Are you going to have showers in these restrooms?
We had, on these private restrooms, we had not said that we would.
I would really strongly consider that being done. I even had Mr. Moss shaking his head, you know,
Okay.
for more reasons than just people working out, you know.
Okay.
The hours people put in here, go to meetings, and then sometimes for emergency situations, granted, we're usually the DOC, but I have come over here too.
But it is something that we do in our spaces today, just because.
And the cost of doing it is minimal with
It
what
is.
you're doing.
It is. So, Councilman
do
Moss,
have-
to your question, we have not determined exactly what the configuration of these workstations would be. But as you can see here, we had 2 wardrobes, 1 for each workstation.
Just a
that people
point to
can
take
put their
into
gym bag
consideration.
or hang a large coat in the event of inclement weather.
Just a quality of life thing I've experienced with my own folks who work in cubicle spaces, and so just sharing it.
Tom?
Thanks.
It's not as tight as the submarine.
Court
It's
asked
tight.
if they're going to put a bar with.
So, when we talked briefly last week, Ms. Henley, you raised the interest in the Office of the Treasurer and Office of the Commissioner of the Revenue being here. An invitation was extended to both those offices, and we came prepared to, the Treasurer is down here.
And then I might add, Ms. Henley, the treasurer asked me to say he apologized for not giving you a quick text yesterday or a call yesterday. He got overcome by events. But he said he's, along with Mr. Kellum, who left you a voicemail, said they're good with their space.
If the mayors went up to 400 feet, are they still going to be happy with 300?
No, they don't have near the representation issues that he
Okay.
has.
That's an easy
so-
change to make, though.
So they are satisfied with what they.
Right, so we met with their staffs 2 times, and then we just validated the program with
Probably
both of
bigger
them
than what
within
they
the
have
last month.
now.
It's bigger than what they have now.
because there's 91 of them and there's only 11 of you, there are a bunch of slides here that go into the detail in every person. I don't think that's what you wanted to see. But if there was a particular concern.
You read me like a book.
Right.
Take a sail and go.
And I know that Mr. Kellum did express a desire for another 100 square feet back in a space that had been removed, and that's easily, accomplishable. But, if there wasn't any particular concern with Treasurer Commission, the revenue space versus council space, we don't need to go through all that.
Very good.
Then that brings us to a close.
Tom, thank you for your presentation.
Certainly, sir.
Appreciate it, Barry. Thank you all for coming over and giving us some help.